You recently got back from DC. Can you just kind of talk about how your trip went and what you talked about with the Texas congressional delegation?
And we had a great trip to Washington, D.C. It was my first opportunity to introduce myself to our senators and representatives, and then to also visit about what we're trying to accomplish here at Baylor as I sort of look to the future and we do planning for the institution. And so it was really great. We were very well received by all of the folks that we talked to, and I shared some about our plans to build an academic strategic plan that really moves us even further down the path of being a Tier 1 Christian research university. And that's important when you're talking to the legislatures, because there's certainly a lot of government funding that helps support research at universities, and we want to make sure that as we look to the future we're well positioned with our congressional delegation to help us know about funding that might be available for some of the research that our faculty and students are doing, and then how to potentially have access to that. So they were great visits. They were all very receptive, wanted to know how they could help us at Baylor to accomplish our goals, and so we were warmly received, and it was a really great first visit to Washington, D.C. on behalf of Baylor.
So I guess just kind of talking more about the future. I know we've heard a little bit about your future plans, but we're 100 days in, well, over 100 days in now. So how do you see, more long-term your future plans for the university?
Well, we're building out this academic strategic plan, as I said, that's really looking at what our priorities need to be as we kind of move into the second phase of fulfillment of Pro Futuris, which is the vision document for the university. And that document really says that we want to be a top tier, kind of Tier 1 research university. And so in order to do that, we have to flesh out over this year the specific initiatives that are going to take place to move us forward. So it will involve how do we invest more in supporting research for faculty and students, and do we need more labs? What kind of facilities do we need? What kind of infrastructure do we need to help faculty find funding for their research? What types of budget models might we need to put into place at the institution that are a little bit different than they have been historically? As we look at facilities, what renovations do we need to do? What new facilities might we need to support this vision as we go forward? And then there will also be a fundraising component to it. So the university's never done a comprehensive campaign, which is sort of an all-encompassing fundraising campaign. We have done project-based campaigns. We raised money for the stadium. We raised money for the Foster campus. We've done projects for scholarships. This will be a comprehensive campaign that has initiatives in it around scholarships, around faculty research and support, around academic programs, around facilities. And so that will be underpinning to the strategy so that we can make sure that as we look to the next 5 to 10 years that we have the financial resources we need to support our programmatic research scholarship initiatives that are important to being a Tier 1 university.
So are you hoping to grow the university, more specifically in the science departments academically, or more overall in general?
Right. Well, there are multiple ways to think about being a Tier 1 institution. So there is a category that's called R1, Research 1, which is a Carnegie classification, and it's one that pretty much in academics people understand, and it's very much about growing your research base in the sciences, technology, engineering, and math areas, so the more technical, science-oriented areas. And we will certainly be putting resources into those areas and looking at how we grow our base there in terms of research funding, graduate programs, doctoral programs, because that's important in terms of moving up in the Carnegie classifications. But beyond that, we will also be looking at other measures that are sort of Tier 1 related that might be beyond what R1 status is typically thought about at an institution. And part of that's because we have a unique mission as a Christian institution. We have significant areas of strength in the social sciences, the humanities, that are important to us as Baylor and as a Christian institution, and we want to continue to support those areas, continue to affirm them, and continue to get even better in those areas. So we will have metrics to target that are related to the sciences and engineering, as you would for R1 status, but we will also have metrics to target in the humanities, the social sciences, that we believe are important to our identity as a Christian university, even beyond the R1 measures. And so in some ways we're kind of calling that Baylor 1 because it will be a model that's a bit unique to us, but important to us as we maintain the integrity of our identity as a Christian university.
And you kind of briefly touched on the financial aspects of how important the fundraising is. So how important is it to grow the endowment?
Well, growing the endowment is a very high priority for us. Our endowment is about $1.23 billion, which sounds like a lot of money, and it is, but for the size of institution we are, our endowment per student is quite low. And so in order to fund students at the level that we need to ensure that they have the financial capacity to go to school, to support faculty research and teaching at the level that we need to, it's really important that that endowment grow. Some of that growth will be an endowment to support scholarships. Some of it will be to support endowed professorships and research funds. Some of it might be to endow programs at the university. And so really we want to probably at least double that endowment over a period of time so that we have a much better foundation and become less dependent on tuition dollars to fund the important priorities of the university.
And was the endowment hindered or hurt at all as far as, the Title IX scandal goes?
Well, the university went into the last couple of years in a very strong financial position and had significant reserves set aside, which any institution should have in case issues come up and arise. And so because of that, because we had reserves in place, we were able to use those to help us work through the issues that we've been dealing with. And so it really has not had a significant impact on the endowment. And in fact, last year's endowment returns were some of the best that we've ever had at the institution. And so we have wonderful people managing our endowment and working closely to ensure that we're growing the endowment we have at appropriate levels. And then we also have to work on raising more funds to put into the endowment so that grows over time.
And how much more growth can Baylor handle? How far until we reach our capacity? And what are your plans for that?
Right. Well, in terms of student enrollment, our goal right now is to maintain undergraduate student enrollment at a fairly consistent level. It certainly grew for several years, and our goal is to keep it at pretty much at the stable rate that it is at right now. So if we see student enrollment growth in the years ahead, I anticipate, and we'll flesh this out more over this year in the academic strategic plan, that more of that growth might be at the graduate level, and particularly in some professional graduate programs that can help us create resources that will help fund some of the other activities that we want to undertake at the university.
There is the accreditation review coming up early in October, which is extremely important ever since we got the warning at the end of last year. And so some of the reasons why the university got the warning is because we weren't meeting compliance in 3 areas, in support systems, control of intercollegiate athletics, and an institutional environment. So in the time that we've been working on improving the university, what steps has the university taken to become ready for this accreditation review?
Well, so that's correct. The first week in October, we will have a team in from SACS, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools, that will be looking at whether or not we have made progress on those issues that you just referenced. And I would say even before we got the warning from SACS COC, the university was already well on its way to addressing the issues that they ultimately raised in those in the letter that they sent to us. And so we have made significant progress in putting in place the right processes and policies and procedures to ensure the safety and health and well-being of our students. We have enhanced the staffing at the counseling center. We have enhanced staffing at our Title IX office. We just opened the Beecham Addiction Recovery Center. So all of those things are important, given that one of those standards is about the environment for students on our campus. But we have also, I work very closely with Mac Rhodes, our athletic director. He is deeply committed to the athletic program, not only being successful athletically, but integrating fully into the life of the university and to being a full partner in the university. And I think when the team comes on campus, they will see the deep commitment that we have to our students, to the policies and procedures and guidelines of SACS COC. And we've made tremendous progress. We have a very extensive document that outlines all that we have done related to the 105 recommendations, some of which, not all of which, tie to the 3 areas that SACS is looking at. So we're looking forward to them being on campus, being able to show them all that we have done at this institution, and hopefully to be an example for others for the ways that you can work through a very difficult circumstance, learn from that, and really get to a much better place that we hope will help other institutions to avoid some of the challenges that we had.
And obviously remedying a lot of these concerns is a slow-moving process. So do students have anything to be concerned about as far as the upcoming review, or should we feel confident that Baylor will not lose its accreditation in the future?
Well, we're confident that we will come through this in a positive way. The committee, when they're here on campus, will meet with a number of people. They will then, as they leave, let us know what they're going to recommend to the board of SAC COC, and then the board meets in December. And so, we feel like we are doing all the right things to make progress, and then we feel like that will be reflected in what the committee looks at. So, I think students can feel confident that we're in a very good place, that we are going to be working very closely with our accreditation body to make sure that we work through this in a way that is positive for our students and then also is positive for the accrediting body.
And so obviously we've talked about a lot of big changes that have happened on campus. There's also some big changes happening in leadership at the university. Can you just kind of talk about some of your plans on implementing and crafting your new leadership team?
Sure. Well, when you move into a new role like this, one of the first things that you do is look at the structure of the leadership in the institution as well as the people that are in those roles. I have said many times that in a role like this, you only get things done through the collaboration of a leadership team of the institution. We're a very large and complex place, and so it takes a lot of people working together to move the institution forward. And so we're in the process of doing that. We've announced a couple of retirements from positions on the university's leadership team. And so we're now, because of that, looking at how do we then realign the structure of that kind of executive committee or executive council, as it's called, to ensure that we have the right people in the right places to move us forward. So what we're looking at is how that group of leadership aligns with where we're going in terms of the strategic direction of the institution. And so over the next couple of months, we'll be making some additional adjustments in terms of the positions, reporting, those kinds of things, and be at a very good place to move the institution forward in the coming months.
So I know when you came and spoke with the Lariat a few weeks ago, you kind of talked about your thoughts about and then your processes over your career about implementing new leadership and putting people into those kind of positions. What are you looking for? What are you looking for in the people that you bring onto your team?
Sure. Well, when you identify individuals for a leadership role in any organization, you certainly want people to have the skill set that they need for the particular position that you're looking for, and so that's kind of a basic piece of it. But then I think a second thing here at Baylor that is unique to us is obviously identifying people with a deep personal faith commitment and a deep commitment to the Christian mission of Baylor, and that want to see how they, in the role that they're playing, can help us advance the mission of the university. And then you want people that are also going to work well in a team. I believe in a very collaborative leadership model where people work together, support one another. So you want individuals that can work in that kind of a setting, are collaborative in their leadership style as well. And then obviously you want people who are individuals of integrity, that that you can trust that they're going to do their jobs, do it well. You can trust that they're going to hold the university's best interests at the highest level, that they're going to care deeply for our students and what's in the best interest of our students. So I'm excited about that. I think we're going to have some really wonderful opportunities to bring some exceptional people into some leadership roles. And so I'm going to look forward to that opportunity and to continuing to build that team over the coming months.
I know you probably may not be able to say, but do you have anyone in mind?
Nothing specific right now. We're still doing a bit of formulation of what some of those positions are going to look like as we've made some changes. And then once we do that, we'll start the search process for some of these positions and then have a much better sense at that point who we'll be looking forward to bringing in.
And so along with some of the other big changes happening, diversity's also been something that's been on the forefront of Baylor's mind. Right. And you recently mentioned in your presidential perspective that this was the most diverse student body class that we've had at Baylor. And so obviously Baylor's done a lot to bring in that diversity. Right. But what is Baylor doing once those students are on Baylor's campus to retain that diversity?
Right. Now, it's certainly important to bring in diverse individuals into a community, but you're absolutely right. Once you have those individuals here, it's how do you create a climate on the campus that helps them to feel embraced and engaged and a part of it, along with all of the other individuals on the campus. And so I know there have been significant efforts in recent years, even long before I was here, to really look at how do we support students across all aspects of our university to ensure they have the right academic support, the right social support, counseling support if they need it to help them to be successful here. And we have seen over time an increase in our retention rates fairly significantly. This last year's freshman class had the highest freshman retention rate we've ever had at about 91.5%. And so the efforts that have been put in place to give real personal attention to students that need it, particularly those that maybe come from backgrounds where they don't have a lot of support mechanisms around them for going into higher education, to ensure that they have that support around them. And so we will continue to look at what other programs and support we need to provide to help all of our students, certainly our diverse students, but all of our students to be as successful as they can be. The other thing I would say on diversity, we have made a lot of progress with our student diversity. Our staff are fairly diverse. We certainly know we also have a lot of progress to make on diversifying our faculty and ensuring that they reflect our values for diversity in terms of what our faculty look like compared to our student body. And so our interim provost is working closely with our deans as we do hiring on an annual basis to say, how do we ensure that we have the highest quality pool of candidates, and how do we ensure we have a diverse pool of candidates for the faculty positions that we're recruiting for.
And in what way specifically is the university being intentional about hiring diverse faculty?
Yeah. Well, one, you have to have conversations about it, and you have to, when you put together search committees, it's who's on the search committee, and do they sort of reflect what you're looking for? Where do you go out and advertise for those positions? How are our faculty engaging in national and international conferences so that they are out among prospective faculty members and meeting people that would fit our mission from a Christian perspective, have the qualifications from a teaching and research perspective, but also bring a variety of types of diversity to the table. So there are a number of things that you can do to try to build that diverse pool, but it takes a lot of work. It doesn't happen without sort of a focused and concerted effort, and we're certainly working with our deans, our department chairs, on how to do that across disciplines at the institution.
So I know we've talked about a lot of changes that you still are working towards making, but what are some of the biggest challenges that you feel are still in the way, or things that you're still working to overcome as far as, the history of the past year?
Well, I think when you look at what's happened over the last year and a half, I don't really look at those as barriers to what we're doing in the future. I look at it as how do we learn from that, and how do we take advantage of those learnings to move us forward and to look to the future and to make us a better place. And so I think we've already done a lot of that and made significant changes because of that. But one of the things that I've seen, I've spent a lot of time out talking to friends of the university, alumni of the university, certainly some of our faculty and staff and students. And what I've seen as I've been out there is, one, a really great love and care and concern for Baylor. Even through the really difficult times that Baylor's had over the last year and a half, people love the institution. They want us to be successful, and they want to come together, as a family to help move the university forward. And then, in addition to that, they want to see kind of a plan and a vision for the future that they can get behind and that they can support. And so I think that's our responsibility, and one of our biggest challenges is making sure that we are taking advantage of that love and that care and concern for the university, that hope for the future of the university, and putting a really good and strong plan in place that people can get behind, can support, and can really come together and work together to make it successful and to really advance Baylor kind of to the next stage of its development.
And so far, 100 days in, what's been your biggest challenge, either professionally or personally, in this role?
Well, I've enjoyed my time tremendously. And I don't know if this is a challenge, but managing the time that I have and being available to everyone, both individuals and groups that want access to me, that I need to have time with, is certainly an interesting juggling act. My staff, I feel sorry for them some days, trying to manage my calendar and prioritize things because we want to get out and be with students as much as we can, with faculty, staff, with our alumni base, and managing that time, managing how we spend our time with various groups can be challenging, but it's also really rewarding when you have those opportunities to get out and spend time with the folks that matter the most at the institution.
And I guess on the flip side, what has been the most positive thing about being in this role, either professionally or personally?
Well, I have loved the time I've spent with our students. They are just a joy to be around. They are enthusiastic. They love their experiences here at Baylor, and they're just exceptional. When people ask me about Baylor and what I'm most excited about and what we have to look forward to, I said, you just really need to talk to our students. They are committed to their studies. They are thinking deeply about their faith. They want to make a difference in the world. And so if you are ever having a discouraging day, you just need to go out and hang out with some of the students and hear their stories and hear what they're trying to accomplish and how much they're getting out of the experience here. And that's been just so rewarding for me, and it's why we're here. It's why we do what we do, and it's why we continue to look at how we move the university forward and improve what we're doing here.
And then lastly, what can students expect from you finishing out the semester in the next 100 days?
Well, I think what you'll see over the next 100 days as we kind of move through the rest of the semester is certainly a continued fleshing out of our academic strategy. We will not get that completely built out until probably late in the spring, but we'll continue to flesh that out and begin to prioritize and put some more sort of meat on the bones for that strategy. And so we'll be talking more about that. I think that you will see some additional kind of refinement of the leadership team and what that's going to look like as we go forward, and we'll certainly keep the community informed about that. In a couple of circumstances, we will probably begin the process of searches for some positions once we've refined what those are going to look like. And then I think that you'll just see a continued engagement in the community. I want to be available to students and to faculty and staff and listening to them and learning more and more about who we are as an institution and how we need to continue to move forward to be successful and to support our students and faculty and staff in the most effective ways.